What if the most unforgettable love story of the 90s returned to the big screen after 36 years? Imagine the same spark, the same charm, and the same couple who made the world believe in love against all odds. Yes, Julia Roberts and Richard Gere are stepping back into the roles that changed their careers forever, and the world is buzzing. The trailer date for Pretty Woman 2 2026 has finally been confirmed, and fans everywhere are counting the days. But before we look forward, let's take a moment to go back to the movie that started it all. A film that redefined what romance on screen could be. Asterisk back in 1990. No one could have predicted that Pretty Woman would become a worldwide sensation. On paper, it was just another romantic comedy. But when it hit theaters, something magical happened. It wasn't just about a businessman hiring a young woman to be his companion for a week. It was about connection, about finding love in the most unexpected places, and about two people who couldn't be more different discovering that their differences made them stronger together. The story of Vivian and Edward was bold, fresh, and different from what audiences were used to seeing. Instead of following the same old romantic formula, it gave us characters who were flawed, real, and deeply human. Julia Roberts, who was still fairly new to Hollywood, brought Vivian to life with so much warmth, humor, and vulnerability that she instantly won over audiences around the world. Her laugh, her charm, her unapologetic spirit, she became the heart of the film. It was the performance that made her a star, earning her an Academy Award nomination and cementing her place as America's sweetheart. On the other hand, Richard Gere, already a respected actor, gave Edward depth and quiet strength. He wasn't just the rich businessman in a suit. He was a man trapped by his own world of money and control, searching for meaning in a life that looked perfect from the outside but felt empty on the inside. Together, their chemistry was electric. Didn't feel like acting, it felt real. The movie's success was not just in the story or the performances, but in how it made audiences feel. People left theaters with smiles, hope, and the belief that love could show up when you least expect it. It grossed hundreds of millions worldwide, making it one of the biggest hits of the decade. Beyond the numbers, Pretty Woman became part of pop culture. Who can forget Vivian walking into the high-end store on Rodeo Drive after being snubbed by the saleswomen, only to return with shopping bags in her hands and the unforgettable line, "Big mistake. Huge." That moment still gets referenced today, proving how timeless the film's impact truly is. And then there's the soundtrack. The film's theme song, Roy Orbison's "Oh Pretty Woman," turned the movie into something more than just cinema. It became a cultural moment. Whenever that song plays, it instantly takes people back to 1990, to the red dress, the opera night, the limousine rides, the fairy tale that felt both modern and classic at the same time. The red gown Vivian wore for the opera became iconic, one of the most memorable fashion moments in movie history. It wasn't just about glamour, it was about transformation. It's about seeing Vivian not through the lens of her past, but through the woman she was becoming. Over the years, Pretty Woman has only grown stronger in its legacy. Reruns on television, endless streaming replays, stage adaptations, and cultural references have kept the film alive. For many fans, it's not just a love story. It's a comfort film, something they return to when they want to feel hope again. It has inspired generations of romantic comedies, but none have quite captured the magic of that original. Directors, actors, and writers in Hollywood often cite Pretty Woman as one of the greatest romantic films ever made. Its influence stretches far beyond just box office success. It reshaped how audiences viewed love stories in the modern age, and that's why the idea of a sequel is so powerful. When people hear the title Pretty Woman 2, it's not just another movie to them. It's a return to a world that feels familiar yet magical. A chance to see two characters they have loved for decades back on screen. For over 30 years, fans have wondered, what happened to Vivian and Edward after the credits rolled? Did their fairy tale last? Did their differences catch up with them? Or did love, as it so often does, find a way to overcome everything? 1990 film left us with hope, but it also left us curious. That curiosity has fueled conversations for decades, keeping the story alive long after its release. Now, With the trailer date for the sequel finally confirmed, fans are not just celebrating a new movie, they're celebrating the return of a cultural landmark. Pretty Woman wasn't just a box office hit. It was a turning point, a reminder that sometimes the simplest stories about love, kindness, and transformation can leave the deepest marks. And as we look back at its legacy, it's clear why this sequel carries so much weight. Just about reviving a film, it's about reviving a feeling, one that audiences have held on to for nearly 4 decades, asterisk for years. The idea of Pretty Woman 2 was little more than a dream. Fans whispered about it, tabloids speculated, and journalists occasionally asked Julia Roberts or Richard Gere if they'd ever return to the roles that made them an unforgettable on-screen couple. The answer was always the same: probably not. Julia often said that Vivian's story had already been told. Richard moved on to other projects, building a career filled with drama, action, and romance. The industry, too, seemed to close the book on Pretty Woman, leaving it in the safe space of nostalgia. And yet, as time passed, something interesting happened. The movie didn't fade away, it grew. Its legacy became larger with every passing decade, and a new generation of viewers discovered the story through streaming platforms. Suddenly, teenagers and young adults who weren't even alive in 1990 were falling in love with Vivian and Edward. It's proving that the story still had a heartbeat. So why a sequel now, after all these years? Part of the answer lies in Hollywood's the growing trend of revisiting classics. We've seen it with Top Gun, Maverick, a film that not only brought back Tom Cruise after more than 30 years, but also managed to shatter box office records while winning over both old fans and new audiences. We've seen it with Sex and the City continuing through, and Just Like That, and with beloved franchises like Star Wars finding new life decades after their original runs. Audiences today crave nostalgia, but they also want fresh perspectives. They want stories that connect their memories of the past with the realities of today. Pretty Woman 2 is perfectly positioned to deliver that because its original message of love, acceptance, and transformation is as relevant now as it was in 1990. Another reason the timing makes sense is the cultural conversation we're living in right now. Back in the early 90s, Vivian's story was bold and unconventional. But today, audiences might interpret it through an even deeper lens. The world has changed, and so have the ways we talk about women, relationships, and power. A sequel gives the opportunity to revisit these characters not just as icons frozen in time, but as people who have aged, grown, and learned. Vivian in her 50s or 60s is not the same Vivian we met on Hollywood Boulevard. She's older, wiser, and perhaps carrying new struggles or victories. Edward, too, would no longer be the uptight businessman who needed saving from his own emptiness. What does their love look like now? Has it endured, or has it been tested by the challenges of real life? These questions can only be answered by bringing the story back, and the timing feels right for audiences who want love stories with depth, maturity, and realism. But there's also a practical side to this decision. It's Universal Pictures, the studio behind Pretty Woman, knows the power of the brand. The red dress, the shopping spree on Rodeo Drive, the laughter, and the fairy tale ending, it all represents more than just a movie. It represents an era, a feeling, and a kind of romance that Hollywood rarely captures anymore. In an industry where franchises and sequels dominate the landscape, Pretty Woman 2 is both a safe bet and a daring move. Safe because millions already love the original. Daring because expectations are sky high. If it succeeds, it could redefine what a modern romance sequel looks like. The decision to release the sequel in 2026 is not accidental either. That year marks the 36th anniversary of the original film, a symbolic number that makes the return even more meaningful. It's not just another random date on the calendar, it's a milestone. Think about it. Audiences who saw the film as young. Adults in theaters are now middle-aged, perhaps married with families of their own. Many grew up with Vivian and Edward's story as the gold standard of romance. To bring those same characters back now is like inviting old friends into your life again, reminding you of the first time you fell in love with cinema, maybe even the first time you believed in fairy tales. There's also something poetic about seeing Julia Roberts and Richard Gere return at this stage in their lives. Hollywood doesn't often give us love stories about older couples. Too often, it focuses on youth, passion, and first loves. Pretty Woman 2 has the chance to challenge that by showing audiences that love doesn't end when you hit a certain age. In fact, it deepens, matures, and gains a richness that only comes with time. That's the story fans didn't know they needed until now. Love story that doesn't just celebrate the beginning but honors the journey. In many ways, the timing of this sequel is about giving closure. For over 3 decades, fans have wondered what became of Vivian and Edward. Did they build a life together, or did reality eventually catch up to them? Did Vivian continue to grow into her dreams, or did she face setbacks along the way? Did Edward truly change, or did he fall back into his old ways? By revisiting their story now, the film has the opportunity to answer these questions. We're to bring audiences full circle, and to give one of cinema's most iconic couples the send-off they deserve. So, why a sequel now? Because the world is finally ready to see it. Because the legacy of Pretty Woman is too powerful to leave unfinished. And because sometimes love stories don't end where the credits roll, they just wait for the right time to continue. And in 2026, that time has finally arrived. Asterisk the announcement that Julia Roberts and Richard Gere are officially returning for Pretty Woman to 2026 sent a wave of excitement through Hollywood and across the globe. Fans who grew up watching Vivian and Edward's love story couldn't believe they'd get to see the couple together again after more than 3 decades. And while there's plenty of talk about the trailer date, the real buzz is about what these 2 stars will bring to their roles now that so much time has passed, not just for them as actors, for their characters as well. Julia Roberts stepping back into Vivian's shoes is more than just casting, it's a cultural event. Vivian was never just another romantic lead. She was a woman who broke stereotypes. Back in 1990, audiences didn't expect a character like her to be the heart of a fairy tale. She was flawed, outspoken, and came from a rough past. But her spirit and heart made her unforgettable. Julia gave her not only charm but dignity, and that performance changed how women were portrayed in romantic comedies. Now, decades later, we'll see Vivian as someone who has lived a whole life since we last saw her on screen. Has she built a family with Edward? Has she created a career of her own, stepping out of the shadow of her past completely? Or perhaps, the sequel will reveal a Vivian who has faced new struggles, showing us that even fairy tales have their challenges when the credits fade. Seeing Julia Roberts embody that evolution is what fans are most eager for, because no one else could play Vivian with that same spark. Then there's Richard Gere, returning as Edward Lewis, the powerful businessman who discovered love in the most unexpected way. In the original, Edward was the definition of control, his life scheduled, his emotions hidden, his world built around deals and boardrooms. Meeting Vivian changed everything for him, opening him up to vulnerability, compassion, and freedom, but 3 decades is a long time. What kind of man is Edward now? Is he still the romantic who climbed the fire escape to win the woman he loved, or did the weight of business and life pull him back into his old patterns? Richard Gere has always brought quiet intensity to his roles, and the sequel gives him the chance to explore Edward with more depth and maturity. Watching him and Julia reunite on screen is not just about nostalgia, it's about seeing how their chemistry has aged, deepened, and perhaps become even more powerful with time. But a sequel can't just lean on the past. It has to bring something new. That's where speculation about new characters comes in. Will Vivian and Edward have children who are now grown, perhaps navigating their own romantic struggles? Imagine the dynamic of a daughter or son who grew up in the shadow of their parents' famous love story, struggling to find their own path in a modern world. This could allow the film to bridge generations, giving younger audiences characters they can relate to, while still keeping the heart of Vivian and Edward's journey alive. Or maybe the sequel will introduce entirely new figures, business rivals, close friends, or even people from Vivian's past who bring fresh conflict and emotion to the story. Casting rumors have already stirred excitement. Fans are speculating whether we'll see cameos from actors connected to the original film, such as Laura San Giacomo, who played Vivian's best friend Kit, Bringing her back, even in a small role, would be a powerful nod to the story's roots. There's also curiosity about whether new Hollywood stars will join the cast to appeal to younger audiences, creating a balance between legacy characters and fresh faces. The beauty of Pretty Woman was always in its balance of romance, humor, and transformation. And the sequel will likely use its expanded cast to explore those themes on an even bigger scale. At the center of it all, though, is the undeniable magic of Julia Roberts and Richard Gere together. Very few on-screen pairings in movie history have had the kind of electricity they shared in 1990. They weren't just acting, they were creating a bond that felt alive. Their glances, their laughter, their silences, all spoke volumes. The world believed in Vivian and Edward because Julia and Richard made us believe. All these years later, the sequel offers something rare in Hollywood, the chance to see that same pairing return with the weight of time behind it. We'll see older versions of these characters who carry memories, regrets, joys, and wisdom. And that makes their story even richer. It's not just about whether their love survived. It's about how it evolved. Did they stay together and build a family? Or did life take them in different directions, only to bring them back again? Did Vivian's dream of being accepted and loved for who she was truly come true? Did Edward manage to hold on to the openness she brought into his life? Or did old habits creep back in? These are the questions fans have been asking for decades, and the return of Julia and Richard is the only way to finally answer them. Ultimately, the casting of Pretty Woman 2 isn't just a reunion, it's a promise. A promise that the sequel will honor what made the first film magical, while also daring to show us something new. Julia Roberts and Richard Gere don't need to prove anything at this stage in their careers. But by returning to Vivian and Edward, they're giving fans a gift, the chance to revisit one of cinema's most beloved love stories, not as a repeat of the past, but as a continuation of a journey we've all been waiting to see. Asterisk. The wait is finally over after years of speculation and endless fan theories. The trailer for Pretty Woman to 2026 now has an official release date. This isn't just another trailer drop. It's an event. It's a kind of moment that will dominate social media timelines, entertainment news cycles, and fan conversations worldwide. For a story that has lived in people's hearts for over 3 decades, the confirmation of the trailer's date feels like the first chapter in a new fairy tale. Fans aren't just waiting to see a teaser. They're waiting to see how Vivian and Edward's love story continues after the credits rolled in 1990, and that anticipation is unlike anything else in modern cinema. The studio has been very strategic about this reveal. Today's world, trailers are no longer simple previews, they're cultural milestones. Think back to the frenzy when Top Gun: Maverick dropped its trailer, or how Marvel fans stay glued to the screen for every second of a teaser, analyzing it frame by frame. That's the level of excitement Pretty Woman 2 is gearing up for. With a confirmed date, fans will circle their calendars, set reminders, and prepare to relive the magic of Vivian and Edward's story in a whole new way. And make no mistake, this trailer won't just remind audiences of the past. It'll set the tone for the entire film. So what can fans actually expect from this long-awaited trailer? First, expect nostalgia. The studio knows the emotional power of memory, and they'll lean into it. Don't be surprised if the trailer opens with echoes of Roy Orbison's "Oh, Pretty Woman" playing softly in the background. That one song alone has the power to transport audiences back to 1990, to the first time they fell in love with Vivian's laugh and Edward's quiet charm. A single shot of Julia Roberts smiling, or Richard Gere glancing toward her with that same iconic gaze, will be enough to send chills down spines. The marketing team knows this, and they'll use it to instantly connect the old with the new. But nostalgia alone won't carry a sequel. The trailer will also need to show growth. Audiences will want glimpses of who Vivian and Edward are today. Will we see them as a happily married couple, weathering life's storms together? Or will the trailer hint at tension, struggles that have tested their love across the years? A well-placed shot of a family dinner, a quick exchange between them, or even a moment of silence filled with emotion could reveal more than dialogue ever could. Fans are desperate for clues, and the trailer is where the first answers will be. Given beyond the main couple, expect the trailer to tease the supporting cast. Whether it's their children stepping into the spotlight, old friends returning for cameos, or brand new characters adding fresh layers of drama, the trailer will give audiences just enough to speculate. One shot of a younger actor looking conflicted, or a brief glimpse of Vivian sharing advice with someone half her age, could open the door to theories about generational themes and the continuation of the love story in new forms. The trailer doesn't have to give everything away, it just has to spark curiosity. Visually, trailers almost guaranteed to mirror the style of the original while embracing modern cinema's polish. Expect sweeping shots of city skylines, echoing Edward's world of wealth and power, contrasted with intimate moments that highlight Vivian's warmth and humanity. The original thrived on the contrast between two different worlds colliding. And the sequel trailer will likely revisit that theme, except this time, the worlds are not just about money and love.